Hi, Lisa Schermerhorn here, and I'm here with my co-host Michele Lowry, who's an extraordinary animal communicator and healer. And you are on our show, Intuitive Guidance from Animals. And I will tell you, this is our third show now, and we've had some really amazing conversations. Not your typical, let's talk to your dog or cat and find out what they want. So, the topic today is going to be very interesting, a little controversial. We're going to be talking about the impact of vaccines on animals. You know, we all talk about the impact of vaccine on humans, and there's a lot of controversy going around that way. Just, some people may feel one way and other people feel another. But the same thing is happening in the animal world. So I'm going to turn this over to Michele because I'm going to let her talk a little bit more because this is what launched her. She lost her dog, her beloved dog, to a vaccine injury, and it launched this entire her entire career really of doing this work. So Michele, welcome all the way from the UK. It's late at night for her, so we have to get through this quickly so she can go to bed.
I'm going to be wired by the time we're done. I'm going to have to find things to do before I go to bed.
Yeah, and I'm also so thrilled to have
Uh,
Heather here and Dorothy. Heather and I have been friends. It's almost exactly our anniversary.
I know.
And
So
we had a
cool.
lot of fun. And Dorothy, it's a pleasure meeting you. So I'm looking forward to hearing your story.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Yes, I just want to take a minute to thank Lisa for co-hosting and launching this entire idea because it's a dream come true for me. And you really, within a matter of hours, we had a podcast going. And okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. So thank you. And Dorothy and Heather, I'm just so thrilled that you're here to share your stories and be part of this topic. It really means a lot to me that you're taking some time out to do this. So thank you, and I'll do some proper introductions in a minute. So yes, this is my hot topic. This is my soapbox. This has been my research for the last 25 odd years. And this really did launch Nikoe Natural Therapies because back in the day when I was far from awake or knowing what I know now, and we've all been down that road, I had a dog. I had two dogs actually that were vaccinated, as we do, because that's what we know, back in 99. And they had the Lyme vaccine. And very shortly after the Lyme vaccine, Kobo, who was also a Rhodesian Ridgeback like Maui behind me, was 7 years old and started to exhibit symptoms that nobody could figure out what was going on with him. Blood work, all kinds of things. The vets couldn't find a reason and then a treatment for him. And back in the day, that was my go-to. I didn't know the stuff I know today. And the next thing I know, like a month later, they're telling me that his platelet counts were virtually at zero, that if he knocked himself, he likely would bleed to death. And they wanted to take him into, oh my gosh, can't remember the name of it, but the vet hospital, teaching hospital down in Boston.
Oh, Tufts?
No, it wasn't Tufts. It's the other one, Angel.
Okay.
Angel
Oh, Angel
Memorial.
Memorial. Yeah.
I went kicking and screaming. I had just come out of a 12-year relationship, so I was pretty raw and empty myself when all this happened. And we went down there for a consult, and they basically said, you have to leave him here. And I just couldn't. I didn't want to. They said he has lupus and kidney failure, and we need to keep him in. So I agreed. So for the next week, he was in emergency care. I went down every night after work to spend time with him, and he howled. I'm going to cry. He howled his head off every night that I left. And you know, I didn't have the strength back then. I didn't have the wherewithal back then to say, this is not working and I'm just going to take him home. At the end of the week, I got down there to take him home and they wanted to keep him in, and I refused. That was where I first found my strength. I knew it wasn't for him and I refused, and I said, I'm taking him home. I got him to the car, and every orifice exploded with all the things he had been hanging on to inside of him. Just let rip inside my car. It was fine. And I got him home, and they had given me a bunch of medication for him, which again, didn't know anything about what I know now. And I gave him the medication, and I don't remember the time frame from when we got him back, but he just wasn't excelling. And this was a really stunning dog. I probably should have had a picture for you, but this was a really stunning dog that deteriorated into nothing. And eventually he refused the medication. And I had said to him, when you stop fighting, I will stop fighting. And I knew the day that he stopped taking the medication that he had stopped fighting. And within 24 hours or so, he had had a really rough night. I took him, interestingly, back to the veterinarian who had given him the vaccine. We didn't know back then that it was related. And we had a choice to do a blood transfusion or to euthanize. And I said, the essence of my dog is not here. What is the point of doing a blood transfusion? And so we put him down. And I had his son. So it was Nira and I from that point forward. And it took me a year of deep, harsh grief to really work through everything that had just happened. But in that process, I was beginning to find my strength, my voice, what the hell just happened to my dog. He was literally dead within 6 weeks of the vaccine. And I started on a mission. I wanted to understand more about everything. And it began my journey into nutrition and really what's in food. It began my journey into the healthcare system for animals and what really is going on. It began my own journey of self-healing. It began my studies, everything that I have been learning in the last 25 years. He literally launched me. What I began to find out over time was that there's a deep correlation with vaccines and illness and potentially death. And started to do a lot of research into what vaccines were, what was in them, why we do them, why we overdo them, and what was happening. And after I had launched my business in 2001, thanks to Kobo, I began to learn more about vaccinosis, which is the side effects to vaccines. And it really has just taken me on this incredible journey that, unfortunately, it was the loss of Kobo, and 2 weeks later, almost the loss of his son, that launched me. It was a real kick, a hard kick to say, you have to look into this and you have to see how to do this differently because this is not working.
So did his son have the same symptoms?
Yes.
So you had to deal with both of them at the same time?
Yes. So Kobo got very, very sick. Nira wasn't as sick, but I believe because Nira was only 2, his immune system was stronger. And so he was more able to deal with what was going on because they had the same batch of vaccine. And 2 weeks after Kobo died, he got very, very sick and very, very weak. And I really thought I was going to lose him too. And I managed, I don't remember honestly what happened, but he pulled through and lived to be 13. So he was a whole other story. When we do a show on behavior and what I learned about behavior and toxins, Nira will be upfront and present for that one. but he survived. I changed his food over. I learned about ingredients. It's just been this wild journey, but vaccines have been a huge, huge part of the work that I do in finding out if the symptoms that are presenting are vaccine related. And unfortunately, more often than not, the side effects when they do present are vaccine related. It's one of the first questions I ask people. So it's been a ride, but I've been able to support other people. I've been able to help them. I've been able to learn more about how we take care of our animals and what actually is needed and what actually is not needed. It's obsolete. And the fact that we can titer now. So we can actually do blood tests to see if the animals have enough antibodies in their system, and then we don't need to vaccinate. So it's such a huge topic, but we'll get through as much as we can get through today and see, where we can go with this.
Well, I want to say it's not just the Lyme vaccine. There's other vaccines that cause this. I was actually at a friend's house last night. She does animal rescue. It's where I got my dog through. She was actually going to keep her. And I ended up getting lucky enough to get Lily. And she told me the story that she got into animal rescue for the same reason. She had her dog, went in to get a rabies vaccine, and the dog died like an hour later. And we were talking about this. I said, how many rabid raccoons have you seen in your lifetime?
Right.
One.
Right.
You ever see raccoons out? They're nocturnal. So...
Well, and here's the other thing. I was studying with somebody many, many years ago when I started to get into all of this. And he was sharing the process of an animal that goes rabid from rabies. And he said, by the time their bite would be infectious, they're so, that was Georgia going up the steps behind you, Dorothy. She was like, I am so out of this conversation. I want nothing to do with it. By the time the animal is rabid enough to bite and cause a problem, it's so neurologically sick that it wouldn't have the ability to bite. So there's a whole other piece to the fear, which, a lot of vaccinations are fear-based, but there's a whole other piece to the fear around the what if, but we're putting our animals at risk for the what if. And I have learned we're not asking enough questions. Nobody said to me, oh, by the way, there's a chance of lupus and kidney failure for the Lyme vaccine. So what I've learned since then is back then that was a new vaccine and this was a very common side effect. But nobody's going to tell you unless you ask what the side effects might be, or is this really necessary, or is there anything else I can do if, they were to get Lyme? And I've had vets over the years confirm that general batch of vaccine when it had first come out was not a good one. And it doesn't bring my dog back, but it keeps me alive on that path of educating people and letting them know that they do have choices and they can ask questions of their vets.
Michele, what year was that batch came out?
He died in 99, so it would have been either late 98 or 99.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been tracking it.
Well, the vaccines for dogs, and to the point rabies, it's required. So that's a whole other subject of
Yes.
the ones that they require. And even for me to get my dog's nails done in Petco, she has to have the rabies vaccine. She has to have Bordetella. To board her anywhere, you have to have Bordetella. I stopped boarding her. I only boarded her a couple times when I traveled, and I said enough is enough. And I brought people into my house from that point forward. And the Bordetella is really bad on their systems. Um, it makes them sick. And so you're trying to prevent them from being sick, but it makes them sick at the same time. And really, the Bordetella occurs because of poor cleaning practices in where you board them. So if they were cleaning correctly, you wouldn't have that issue. And the rabies, you're not going to have a rabid dog in a Petco or in a boarding place that's going to go around and bite everybody and spread rabies. That's not going to happen. So I mean, really, we have to look at the ludicrousy in this of what were what they demanded we do in controlling our pets. Just all the vaccination for kids now, and putting parents in jail for not vaccinating them, and that's a whole other story. But for our pets, and as you were talking about this, I was thinking my beloved corgi that I had before, Jewel, she declined so fast. Like, she was gone in a week. And there were no signs before that. She was a happy Pembroke corgi. So I haven't checked the records, but it sounds to me like I probably had some sort of vaccination that the doctor wanted me to have, whether it was Lyme or whatever it was, because she had complete kidney failure, but they think she might have had cancer also. Um, Glyphosate, all the glyphosate used. And I know glyphosate was used in our yard to get rid of the weeds by the gardeners and everything else. And I wasn't aware of it enough at that time. And so, you know, the environment that our pets are in is as critical for them as it is for us. And
Absolutely.
so this is all part of it. It's all tied together. And then the other part of this are the not just the food, but the treats. So I had a friend, Rebel, whose dog died from some Purina treats, and she happened to be a litigator, and she sued the heck out of them and won against Purina. But um, we have to be so vigilant now, and the labeling is misleading. And pets have died from blue buffalo food that's supposed to be so good. Every time we turn around. So I don't take the discussion away from vaccines, but there are so many factors that go into this as well, and that lead up to us thinking that our pets need vaccines, and why we do that, and why we do the flea and tick that we inject into them that makes them sick also.
Well, this is the one that I
So
can't understand. You inject it in them, so the tick has to bite your animal first in order to die. I think that's it is. So how are you preventing the animal from getting Lyme or any of these things? Because you have to wait for them to bite the dog in order for them to die. And here's my other thing about the vaccine. At least with humans, we can have a religious exemption. I wonder if anyone could get away with a religious exemption for their dogs.
You know what, though, what you can do, and again, people don't know about it, so they don't know to ask. If you have an immune compromised dog or a dog that is currently sick, no vet should ever vaccinate that animal, and they know not to. So if you have an immune compromised dog or a senior, an elderly dog, I do know that the vets can sign off that those dogs do not need another rabies vaccine or any vaccine because it is immune compromising. So these are the things that I've learned along the way that we can ask, or we can say no to certain vaccines. I literally, my dog Dasher, I got him when he was 3 months old, and other than the initial puppy vaccines that he got before I had him, he was never vaccinated again for anything other than the rabies. But I would go under the wire here and there because I traveled a lot. And when he hit 12, I think it was, or 11, when he had his he had another rabies vaccine, I think. I told him then, no matter how much longer he went, he would never have another rabies vaccine. And that I would have asked the vet, I would have said, come on, he's 12, he's 13, this is clearly not acceptable. And the rabies vaccine, what's great is if people look up Dr. Jean Dodds, Jean Dodds, I first came across Jean Dodds at an event that I was a vendor at down in Massachusetts. It was a holistic event, and she was a speaker at the event. So she, grew up as a veterinarian and then realized the truth of everything and went completely holistic. What she also did was set up an organization where she tested how long the rabies vaccine actually lasts in the body. And she did multiple generations. She would do it where a generation was vaccinated. She would skip a generation and then test the generation after that. She proved that the vaccine lasts for 7 years, which means you would only ever have to do it twice if it was still mandated. She also proved that it was such a strong vaccine that the generation that skipped the vaccine still had enough in there that following generation had the effects of vaccinosis from the rabies vaccine. So
this was an epigenetic thing? This got carried down generationally?
Yep.
So is that a DNA defect that's happening when you say the vaccinosis, like their puppies are actually having
the vaccinosis? Yeah, they have side effects.
Wow.
Yeah, from the rabies. It's a very strong vaccine. The other thing I always let people know, especially if I'm working with like behavioral issues and stuff like that, the rabies vaccine side effects are noise. So they become super sensitive to noise, behavior, aggression, trauma, fear. All of those things are known side effects for the rabies vaccine. And there are always side effects to a vaccine. Doesn't matter what the vaccine is. A lot of it just depends on your dog because, I've met clients whose animals are vaccinated to the hilt and they're senior and they're elderly and somehow they're still standing. There's no way I can turn around to them and say, well, it's a mispractice because vaccines are going to kill your dog when I'm looking at a dog or a horse that, is a senior. So for me, obviously I don't agree with them, and for all the reasons that we're going to talk about. But I also believe that there is an energetic component to this process, because if somebody believes strongly enough that a vaccine is going to work for their animal, somehow the animal will take it on and be okay. Unless they want to teach something, at that point, they won't be. Right. And they'll start to have a reaction. So I'm always tracking vaccines and when they're happening for people, because these vaccinosis issues can come, 1-2 years later. And so people generally won't connect it back to the vaccine. So, I'm always checking on that. But what Jean Dodds said in her talk, which was another piece to the puzzle, is that there are variants that can cause the vaccinosis and the reaction. So if you have a dog that's stressed, if you have a dog that's in trauma, if you have a dog that's nutritionally unsound, and now you vaccinate, and she basically drew 3 circles that were linked to each other. And now you vaccinate, the chances of vaccinosis, death, and other issues are far more likely because there's no stability in the dog to start with. The other thing that she pointed out, which I tell people, is that they decide, the vets or whoever the body is, decided to vaccinate in a leg position rather than a shoulder or anywhere else, because then when the tumor happens, they just can amputate the leg. There's forward thinking for you. And that's got nothing to do with the health and wellness of the animal. That's just them being able to practice what they do and going, oh, well, we'll just take the leg off. Dorothy, I don't know if you're okay in, your story and stuff.
Oh, yes.
I would love you to share, I don't know if which one or both animals, but just to invite Dorothy in. Dorothy and I are dear, dear friends. We've traveled together. We've been places together. Dorothy, when I'm traveling and I've had animals die on travels, has always flown down to travel back home with me so I don't have to travel on my own. We have a very unique and special friendship, and I love her, and now she's too far away. But
I'm sure she'll be happy to fly to the UK to help you out if
I
you
already
needed
have
it.
one. I was there in March.
Yeah, she already had come. But I'd love to invite you in to share your story.
Okay, the timing, well, Michele, when I first met you, I had lost a puppy, but I don't want, I can talk about him later if we have time, but right now what you're talking about, and when you said like amputate the leg, so that ties into Barratt. Barratt was a Maine Coon cat who died almost a year ago. He was a very small lump, very small on his hip, started in December of, that would be 2022. It took like 10 days to get a vet. Did I? Did you just
No, I did that because I want to
She's
show.
going to bring up Barratt's picture.
Oh, okay.
To get something
And
to drink.
so he was an amazing 25-pound Maine Coon cat who actually belonged to my daughter. But the lump, the tumor started on his hip. And what's interesting, it was 2.5 years after the injection that he had gotten. And according to my Google and whatnot, it can rest in the body up to 3 years. So even though something comes up, it doesn't mean that it hasn't been there the whole time. I mean, it doesn't have to be recent, which makes it even more scary. So in any case, took about 10 days to get a vet appointment to have it checked. And I thought, it's no big deal. It's just a little bump. It's nothing. It grew quite fast. The vet saw him and immediately said it looks like what they call an injection site sarcoma, and referred us out to a Portsmouth, a different vet. Sure enough, that's exactly what it was. He had been given a feline leukemia shot for being an indoor kitty. Well, he would go out in my yard in the garden, but that he never came into contact with other cats outside or anything. So he never should have had the injection, which makes me even madder. But it's a very aggressive form. It does happen. They say it's very, very rare, but it's interesting. When you start talking to people, you hear more stories. So by the first few days of January, he was given 2 to 4 weeks to live. And of course, I was contacting Michele right away. And I'll let Michele talk about what she did for him. But Barratt lived 5 months. The picture you see with him in the doorway was the day that he passed. You can see that he thrived. Even the vet, when I took him back, I think it was about a month before he passed. Was the only time he went back to the vet again. And the vet was amazed. He said, I have nothing I can add or say to this. It's just remarkable. So Michele did what she needed to do for us. We had 5 months to say goodbye. And like I said, he absolutely thrived because of Michele. In the very beginning, I'm sorry, I'm kind of got off topic. They had said that if the tumor hadn't grown so fast, and they said it was spread through his body, even into his lungs, they would have amputated his leg. That was going to be the treatment. what was interesting is when I went back to the vet 4 months later, the month before he died, he said, "This is remarkable. His lungs sound fine. Everything else seems fine. What happened was the tumor itself just grew and grew and grew until it burst the skin." And so that picture, like I said, of him it's actually in my sunroom. That was the day, unfortunately, we had to take him to the vet to be put down because he had split the skin and it was getting bigger and you could see the tumor. So that was our Barratt, all because of a feline leukemia injection or vaccine that he didn't need.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and I know Dorothy has come across other people that have similar stories. So it's horrible and it's horrific, and it's also validating. People are starting to realize that these stories need to be told, and then you find out that somebody else that you've just met had a similar situation. And so it just validates it that these guys are being like super over vaccinated. So with Barratt, obviously I got permission, right? Because of course I'm all about, let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
And both Dorothy's daughter and Dorothy were open to doing something rather than just, so here's the difference, rather than just sitting there for 2 to 4 weeks waiting for the day that they're going to choose to die, be proactive, enjoy them, do things for them that are action oriented so that you feel a part of this and not disempowered by the diagnosis. And that's what happens, is people get totally disempowered and then they just wait there feeling helpless, and that's the last thing we want. So I sat with Barratt and I did energy work with him, and he was really open to being worked on. We did Essiac tea, which Dorothy had to make up in order to give it to him. And he guided us. He guided us in the herbs that he wanted, into the homeopathic remedies that he wanted. Barratt was incredibly wise. He would take the Essiac. We figured out what he wanted to eat. And he just kept going. And I know with the lung thing that we had been working on doing energy work around his heart and his lungs. And I felt it move out. I felt it clear. So it was just one less thing he had to deal with. And he thrived. Nothing changed. Barratt's personality was the same. He was just amazing. He was loving.
Yeah, he was totally, even with this huge tumor on him, he could still jump, run, do everything that he did.
So, there's lessons in all of it. I mean, you do what you think is best for these guys. And then sometimes you learn otherwise. And then to know that that's not necessarily the end, that there are things that you can do. There is quality of life, and there are some amazing support out there that really can make a difference. This is testimony to it. These 2 pictures show that he looked as good the day he died as previously. So there was no suffering.
In the garden was probably a year anyways before. It was before he was even diagnosed.
Yeah. So, these are all really important things. And there are homeopathic protocols. If vaccinations is what you need to do, or you have to do, or you believe in, there are protocols that you can do before and after so that you can negate as much of the side effects as you possibly can. And that's how I work with people. If they really want to vaccinate, I tell them to separate the vaccines, don't ever do more than one at a time. And here are the protocols before and after. Support the immune system, get them ready, do the homeopathic remedies, give them the chance to fight what's about to go into their body, and then cleanse them out afterwards. So it's not sitting there, right? All those heavy metals were sitting in Barratt, and then eventually his body said, I have to do something with this now. And, and the tumor got created. So there's always options, and honoring the animal. If this is their exit and it's going to be quick, it's going to be quick no matter what you want to do to try and save them. They're also on their own life path. So it's finding that balance and honoring them, but not just discarding them because now they have a, take them home until they die diagnosis.
You know,
So-
I
I
just
want to
want,
say,
oh,
go ahead, Lise.
just really quickly, so people have an understanding of how Michele works. She will tap into the animal and the animal will tell them what their issue is and what remedy they would like. And this just got confirmed today, because she told me a week ago that my dog was anemic. And I had gone in and she had blood tests yesterday and the vet said, oh, by the way, she's anemic. So you can't make this stuff up. She was bitten by we weren't sure if it was a tick or a spider, and she was like a rag doll and we had to carry her around, 60-pound dog. We walked outside, we lay her down on the ground so she could pee. She could not hold her body weight up at all. Michele checked in with Lily. Lily told her 2 or 3 different homeopathic remedies. I happened to have them at home. I gave them to her, and in 10 minutes, she got down off the couch and was standing on her own. And this was after 4 days of having to carry her everywhere. So when she says that the cat said he was asking for SEAC, the cat was asking for SEAC. So this is how remarkable it is, to hear her tell these stories that, like, how does the cat know what the homeopathic remedy is? They know, they're connected. So I just wanted to add that little bit.
Thank
And
you.
also to add, he also started refusing
Yes.
all the herbs and everything about 3 weeks before he passed.
What I was gonna say is that everything begins and ends with bacteria.
Yeah.
And they always have the first and the last word. So keeping your pet's immune system really fortified and making sure that they have enough good bacteria, soil spore bacteria, making sure that they have that their environment is clean, that they're not fighting against their environment, that they have the fortitude and the ability for their bodies to really do the best that the body can do, because the bacteria will turn back on the body if it's trying to fight, and if it's fighting this enemy and there aren't enough good ones, the bad ones will take over. And so you're not always dealing with just what it appears with or appears to be on the surface. And so I think one of the things to think about here is that fortification and that wellness piece for our pets, to make sure. And I would even add here, when I had my reading for my dog, I didn't do it because she was sick or had an ailment. I did it because I wanted to check in. I wanted to see how she's feeling. I wanted to see if she needed anything. Am I giving her the right food? Am I doing the right things for her? And am I doing the right things to make her happy and for us to coexist? So your gifts aren't just for pets that have vaccine injury or whatever. We can use Michele if we get a new food, if we want to add something to their diet, if we are sensing something in them that they're trying to tell us, but we don't know what the heck they're telling us. You know, this is, to me, a gift, to have Michele here so that I can check in on those things too.
So I'm curious because I know that you know Michele checks in with the animals, and it's up to you if it's a personal reading, or if it's something you want to share. But I'm curious for you, Heather, with the first time you had your experience with her, what surprised you most about the information that you got about your beautiful dog, Jewel?
There were quite a few things, Lise. I like to think I know my dog pretty well because she's very vocal, but I found out that she was an ancient spirit guide of mine that came back in this physical form to be with me. I found out that she was a centaurian. That she can move from dimension to dimension. She just flies around the astral. She's got dragon friends, and they were there the other night, and I had my friend Victoria, and I said, "Are you watching?" And she goes, "Yeah, I can clearly see her buddies are here." And because she's just doing this, watching them fly around. And I was also one of the lines that was so funny. I don't have I wish I had brought the book with me down here in my camper, but it was so funny because Jewel, the response that my dog gave to Michele was, "Is the Pope Catholic?" Like, are you kidding me? Of course, that's Jewel.
Yeah.
And you can see by her face, that's kind of the look she probably had on her face when Michele was talking to her. But anyway, I thought that was amazing. Questions like, is she happy at the camper? Yeah, she's happy at the camper because mom's so much happier at the camper. Things like, oh, she needed some herbs. And as soon as I bought the 2 teas that she needed, and I brewed it and I let it cool and I put it in her dish, she lapped that up so fast. And after she did it, I got near her and I said, "Was that good? Was that what you wanted?" And she just gave me a big kiss on my face.
Aw.
And
Aw.
same, yeah. And same for the tincture, for her back. Back was a little sore, so I got that. And she was okay, so this is really interesting. So I had asked Michele because she randomly would just pee on the couch, just every once in a while. And because the corgi before her, that was a Pembroke, and Jewel is a cardigan corgi, little different, had kidney failure. I was like, oh, maybe I just want to make sure it's not her kidneys. So I needed to check in with Michele on that too. And she did it. I have this big Italian Chibolo chair, and it was a very expensive chair, but it is my dog's tuffet, apparently. So she gets up there and she, peed there. Well, there was a portal under my couch that Jewel was identifying that needed to be closed. And there on the chair, there was an entity there that I didn't even know was there. So Jewel was trying to tell me that entity was there.
So
And I'm not going to go into who that entity was,
yeah.
but pardon me?
No, so for people who this is a foreign language for, I just want to say, there are animals can see spirit and they travel interdimensionally. My dog gave me a psychic reading to Michele telling me about my future. So if you wanted to save some money, you can go and ask your dog or your cat what's coming up. But
it's true.
They see so much. And for people who are like, I don't know if I believe in ghosts or whatever, you know what? You don't have to. I just want people to understand that there's so many different dimensions that we talk to when we're talking about communicating, that yes, are there portals? Portals are in mirrors. Portals are in the earth. When you go to Sedona, there's vortexes. There are all kinds of ways that we pass through different dimensions on this earth. So I just wanted to
Well,
give a little.
that's a good portal. That's a good
Yeah.
portal, but there are not so great portals
Right.
that exist to let things in that we really don't want
Right.
also. And that's what she was trying to identify.
And
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
no, go ahead, finish
Michele?
up what you wanted to say.
Oh, the last thing I was going to say is I checked in with Michele, and I said, you know, Jewel is just neurotic in the car. Like, I'm worried that she's going to pant herself to death. Like, this is crazy. And so Michele came back to me and said, Jewel said that she cannot see out well enough, and she's a total control freak about her environment. I mean, I know that. And so why would the car be any different? And so she needed to be able to see better out. And I have an expedition, and I thought it was high enough, but apparently it wasn't for her. And then the other thing is that it was hard on her bladder, like when I was hitting things on the road. So I'm like, am I gonna go buy an egg crate for this dog? What do I do with it? So I happen to have a my third floor with a memory foam mattress, and I stuck that in the back of the expedition. And then I bought a dog bed, an orthopedic with an orthopedic thing for her back. And now she's fine. Now she just sees out. But you know, the things that we do for our pets because we love them so much. And that might sound a little plebeian for some people, but most of you watching, I know how much you love me. So there's no way that you wouldn't do the same if you had the ability to do it. But that's and the last thing I was going to say is that about that I walked in, there was nobody in the waiting room. They put a mask on. I said I'm not keeping it up here, and this is after.
Oh wait,
everything
Heather,
stopped.
1 second, you
Like
were
this-
breaking, Heather, you were breaking up a bit. We were getting like every other word. I don't know if you were having that experience too. Yeah, okay, you did. If you could just reverse
So,
back and tell that story again, because you were getting really choppy. I couldn't
for
understand
the
you.
vet,
Whatever you were
for
just
the vet
saying.
or the car.
You said the
Oh,
car story,
so,
and then after that.
Okay, the vet, I went to bring her in because she, and this is before I knew Michele, but it had scabies or something on her ears, and she was miserable for like a month and a half. And I said, enough is enough. I'm going to the vet. I can't stand taking my dog to the vet. So I took her and I walked in, and the woman at the behind the desk went like this, oh, because there was no room. I realized. And then she said, oh, you need a mask. And this was last year. And I went, what? And I said, oh, I see. I'm only going to wear it to here. And she goes, you can't do that. And I said, oh, yes, I can. So I went in to the exam room and I waited for the doctor, and I had taken my mask off, and he and the tech literally stopped at the door and said, you need to put your mask on. And this is 2023 now, right? Mid 2023. I said, well, this is against my religion, but I'm going to do it. And so I lifted my dog up on the table. They didn't like that. And he said, oh, I see here your rabies vaccine is due. And I looked him straight in the face and I said, I don't care. I'm not doing it. And he goes, oh, but it's the law. And I said, I don't care. And I didn't do it with her. And she has not had any vaccine, the same as your dog, Michele. I learned the lesson quickly, and she got what she got from, when she was a baby, a pup, and nothing after that, ever.
Yeah.
So
And you were bringing in a sick
I
dog with
really,
ear problems. the vet shouldn't have even considered wanting to give any vaccine at that time. That's what I didn't understand.
I
They
know.
just
And
don't
see,
get it.
this is criminal. This is all right work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that I is what
Oops.
recourse do we have? Yeah,
You're breaking up again, so
really.
yeah, you were getting a little choppy, but I heard what recourse do we have with vets? That was, I could get that. But maybe we'll give it a minute while we see if your connection gets a little better. I know you said, Michele, that you had tapped in. Did you have any messages from the animals that were that they wanted to say?
I do. Yeah, we got some beautiful messages, one from Barratt and one from Jewel. So, and then just to kind of put it on our radar, I would love after this for Dorothy to share what she's learned about Scotty dogs and vaccines, because I think it's a really important piece.
Oh,
Yes. All right, let me see
good.
if I can read this because it. All right, Dorothy. And
Yes.
I will type this up for you and I will send it to you so you have it for yourself and for your daughter.
Okay.
I'm gonna try not to cry.
Me too.
Okay. So he came right out as he does, and he said, "No, not my disease and how I left. No, only the joy of love ever after, and the life so exuberant and varied with humans who saw the vibrancy of my presence. I was stubborn in not wanting to leave,
Oof.
but, and a big but, your choice was the perfect one for what may have transpired if you had waited." Okay, do you get that? So he was stubborn. Yes,
Okay.
he said, "I was stubborn in not wanting to leave, but,
It was awful.
big but, your choice was the perfect one for what may have transpired if you had waited." So he sees now.
Yes.
He didn't see at that moment.
No, I did. That
I
makes it
am,
a lot better.
yes, I thought it might. I am the dog you didn't have, the man you knew was safe, and the love so immense it had to be real. That's for your daughter.
Okay, good. Georgia. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was to help you have closure around that last day, because I know that was super stressful.
It was traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So know that.
We got him to the vet and he literally somehow flattened himself out. I don't know how, and got under a couch. We had to lift a couch to get him out. The vet tech wanted to use these big, huge gloves on him, which we refused. But yeah.
So
thank you very much.
Hey,
So
Michele, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think this is an important thing. How we say goodbye to our pets.
Yes.
And Scott did it. Scott was on another show, but the way that he said goodbye to Lily, I think people should know that that exists.
Yeah, if they so the second show that we did talked a lot about all of that. So if people want to go look at that second show, that was an entire show dedicated to that. And we had Scott on there and Barry on there, and it was all about exactly that topic, which I agree with you is really, people are missing out on it potentially being something very beautiful rather than something traumatic. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Dorothy and her daughter, it just was what it was. But I feel that when this reading came through, he wanted you to know that his stubbornness was what was creating that experience. So
And that's another gift that Michele can give, because my last dog, my pug mix, did not want to leave, and she was convinced that she was perfectly healthy, and meanwhile she's gasping for air, and she had tumors in her lungs, and I would beg her to go, and Michele kept chiming in and saying, "Please, Lisa asked you to go," and finally she gave permission for me to have her put down, euthanized, because or I know you don't like that word, but to take her out of her pain,
Yeah.
because I couldn't take it anymore. And so when you get the guidance from your animal, and then you can tell them what's going on, so they don't, that, so they are present and they know. And I think that's also a big deal. And so so Dorothy, how was that message for you?
Oh, it was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful, because like I said, we knew it had to be done. He was not ready, clearly. But what Michele just said, though, if we had not done it, it would have been very traumatic, and that's not what we wanted for him.
Right.
And once we
Right.
finally did get him out from under a couch and whatnot, and sedated, then he did pass away over the lap of both my daughter and I. He was a 25-pound Maine Coon cat. He was huge. And he hadn't
Yeah,
lost a
big.
pound. He had not lost 1 pound during all that.
Wow.
But
Wow.
so that part of it was peaceful, but getting him to that was just awe, and trying to get him into a crate. And it was just really, it was hard.
Wow.
Yeah.
You want what's best for them. You want it peaceful. You want, like I've had other animals that it's been wonderful, as far as beautiful. I shouldn't say wonderful, beautiful. And that's what I wanted for Barratt, and it didn't happen. But he was stubborn. Otherwise, he wouldn't have
Yes.
been. He would have been him. So it's okay.
Exactly. So I felt that was, just to help you both in your process with
Thank
him.
you. I do appreciate that.
And I mean, the timing of this being a 1 year on, so the timing also to help you both through it. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. And I do have a message for you, Heather, from Jewel too.
Yay.
All right. So I just have to say, I'm wearing these orange glasses because it cuts the blue light from the computer, but I wrote in a red pen. So any pen manufacturers, I write all the time. If you want to send me some really good pens, we'll take them. All right, so this is from Jewel. Oh, dearest one, our lives enmeshed in love and honor. Our paths were walked as we learned from each other. We have both flown with wings stretched wide, and neither of us will be quiet and hide. Continue to grow your soul so joyous, and we will always share the essence of knowing our lives in any dimension are always connected.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And it's actually quite poetic. I didn't read it that way.
It is. She's
It's
Did you know you're a poet?
Yeah.
So
Your cat, Barratt, is beautiful, what he said. I mean, both of them.
I know. It's
so
crazy.
one thing that I wanted to add, because Heather Holmes is become a sister to me in a very short period of time. And she has done some really extraordinary things, and she helps a lot of people. And I know this isn't necessarily related to vaccines, but she has a probiotic company that helps animals as well as humans. And I wanted her to just take a couple minutes to just do a quick talk. I use all of her products. As a matter of fact, my roommate Barry has been using her surface cleaner in her hair and loves it.
What?
She grabbed the wrong bottle and she's like, "This one's better than the body bath wash." Her hair is gorgeous. It's all silky. We were laughing. So all of her products are amazing.
And multi-use too, it appears.
Yep.
Apparently, find new uses all the time.
So I
So,
wanted you to talk a little bit about the impact of the probiotics and how you use them with animals. And
my dog has gotten our pet water additive since she was 8 weeks old. Since it, right when I got her, and she's had it every day pretty much since. And the difference when I talk about a probiotic is I'm talking about ones that come from the earth, from the soil, that are spores. And the bacteria that we deal with in our environment and inside of us are spores. So we're comparing apples to apples. But when we talk about the probiotics that line the pet shelves, that are there, that's apples and oranges, because those are actually plant-based probiotics that they're using, and they are very temperature sensitive. They don't have long shelf life, but they also require sugar to stay alive. So I sometimes give sugar to my dog because I give her treats of ice cream sometimes, and we all do that with our pets, but it's not like we're doing it all the time. And if my pet water additive had sugar in it that I was giving my dog every day, it would not go well with the bacteria in her body. So my point is the soil spores have the ability to balance the immune system and to literally act like natural antibiotics when they need to. They create a very caustic environment for bad bacteria that are pathogens. So they can excrete lactic acid, lower the pH. They can do all sorts of things to make those bad guys not be able to form something that is critical that you know about. And that is called biofilm. And I talk about it a lot because people really need to understand it. And biofilm is responsible in humans for 80% of all disease and infection. And I'm convinced that's the same for pets. So biofilm, or you know it because it's the plaque in your teeth. It's the stuff that clouds your contact lenses. It's the slippery stuff on rocks. But when we talk about it causing 80% of all disease and infection, when our dogs or our cats get sick, most likely their immune system, just like a human, is out of whack. The other piece of that can be the environment in which they're living. So bacteria act exactly the same in us and our pets as it does on the outside of us. So there's a symbiotic relationship between the two. So it's very important that we don't just look at products that we give to our pets internally. We have to think about what is going on in the environment, how we clean our environment, because the pets are walking on the floors. They're breathing in the air, and we are too. We share over 6,000 types of bacteria with our dogs. And I don't know how many for cats, Dorothy, I'm sorry. But we do share 6,000 with our dogs. And so again, we're very tied to our animals, and especially in a bacterial way. So I always say we have to completely replenish constantly the good bacteria in us and around us and on us. And that's really what I've designed with the product line. And I wish I could do this right now, but my girl is resting and sleeping. But if you go on our website, you can see her being sprayed. Cats, a little different when you try to spray them with the probiotics. Most of them run, so you just have to kind of get close enough and just put the spray up like this, just so it kind of comes down on them. Same with the digestive additive for the pets. You might want to put it in the food. But all of our stuff is based off of all of the research and the years that we've been in livestock. So we've been putting our product into the drinking lines of livestock and making the milk healthier, making the animals healthier and frisky, making them grow better, helping ocular cancer, getting rid of antibiotics. So all of that has happened because the probiotics we use go to the microscopic level, battle with the pathogens, win, take away their house of biofilm, which is also their food, blanket that area to keep everything balanced and healthy. So it's not far-fetched. It's really replacing products that you would use every day to wash your body, to keep your air clean, to clean your surfaces, to keep your pets healthy. And that's really what it's about.
So what I like about this is a great way to help boost their immune system. If you are getting them vaccinated, this is a way to at least help them, fight off whatever they need to do and keep them as healthy as possible. So I use all of her products, and I'll have her link below, so that you can check that out. And I wanted to know, in the meantime, Michele, yeah, that's her pet and water food additive.
And this is the allergy spray, but we make one for pets too in it.
I spray my bed down because it kills all the dust mites and everything for allergies. So anyway, thank you for that. And Michele, is there anything
you.
else that you had wanted to talk about on the topics, or anything else that's coming up that you wanted to cover before we finish up?
I would. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Heather. I'm really excited to try your products. I'm looking forward to bringing them
I know I need to ship to you.
I'm looking forward to it. So I did want to ask Dorothy if she would share her research with. So Dorothy has two fabulous dogs named Beatrix and Elsie, and I would love for you to share what you found out to help other people that may have the same breed.
So I have two Scottish Terriers, but it was 8 years ago, I got a Scottish Terrier puppy. I hadn't had a Scottie since it was my first dog. So so this is years later. I had many dogs in between, but I wanted another Scottie. And Griffin was his name. He was 5 months old, and I had a vet come to my house. It was a traveling vet, whatever. So I wanted to give him the best possible care. And she gave him multiple vaccines at once, from Lyme to, I believe, distemper. I think there was a rabies in there, and there was a lepto. He died 10 days later. And there was no known reason why I had I'm sorry, I can't remember what they're called. It's an autopsy, but it's on animals, Nira something. Can't remember, but it was done at UNH, and there was no conclusion. There was nothing wrong with this beautiful puppy. And so I always thought, and that's actually about the time, Michele, that I really met. I knew you, but we had really started to talk then, because I was at a loss. What else could it have been? It had to have been the vaccines. And since then, I actually got I got another Scottie. That's Beatrix, that from the same mother as Griffin. I got her about 6-8 months later, in any case. And she's had 2 litters of puppies. And the breeder that I have aligned myself with, because I don't consider myself a breeder, I just do it for the love, and I do it responsibly. I'm going down that rabbit hole. I do it responsibly, aligning myself with a professional breeder who all the testing, everything is done on the dogs ahead of time. Scotties are on what they call a watch list, and that's the only reason why I've bred her, because there are so few of them left. So, but in any case,
Wow.
So she told me that lepto vaccine is the problem with Scotties. And there's been some research done at the Scottish Terrier organization level and whatnot. So every puppy that has gone out, and of course Beatrix has not, she's had very few vaccines, definitely not lepto. So now I know. So every puppy that is left, I've given the people, you know, the lecture, if you want to call it that. Do not do a lepto vaccine under any conditions. Yes, some Scotties might be okay with it. This bloodline, their uncle definitely was not. He died from it. I have had people the owners call me back and say, my vet's insisting. I know what the vet's going to tell you, but it's just, they don't understand. They don't know, and they won't listen. Change vets, do not. And I'm sure that lepto vaccine, I mean, I don't know if it's just the Scottish Terriers. It could be other terriers. I don't know. The other thing we haven't talked about that concerns me is that vaccine sizes are the same. The injection and correct me if I'm wrong, are the same for, let's say, a Great Dane puppy as a little Scotty puppy. That I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how they do the dosing, but normally there's a size variant, so it'll be between this many pounds and this many pounds. And I've never understood that theory, even with other medications and heartworm and all of that, in that how does a dog that's 10 pounds need the same amount as a dog that might even just be 30 pounds? I mean, it's a huge difference.
Right.
And there is this, it's not like each pound is how much you give. It's a variant, and you know, and that's an issue too. And I think it's really there's so much out there now. This is probably like something for people. If you're a researcher, Dr. Peter Dobias out in Canada has dedicated his life to the holistic healthcare. He's a veterinarian, to holistic healthcare for dogs. He's amazing. He does have he has his own supplement line because he just needed to do it himself. He has an amazing number of blogs on all kinds of topics, vaccines being one of them. He's a huge one on vaccinations. So look him up, look up Dr. Jean Dodds. You want to look for the vets that were trained as veterinarians and realized that they wanted to do it differently. You want to make sure that, you know, we're gonna talk about nutrition on some other show, I'm pretty sure, but you know, there's a lot of components to keeping your animals healthy, but you do have a choice on vaccines. So I would say, if you don't need a vaccine and it's not required by law, or your dog isn't old enough or sick enough that you can get a waiver for it, most vaccines are not required, and they're certainly not required on a regular basis the way that we have been taught that they are. If you go to daycare and stuff like that, you decide, do you want to go to daycare and vaccinate, or do you not want to go to daycare? You know, and everyone's situation is different. And know there's protocols. Reach out to me and I will tell you all the protocols if you need to vaccinate. But do your research. The science is out there. It's been proven. And it really is something we need to look at for these animals so that they stick around for longer. You know, read the article Dr. Peter Dobias has on a dog in Portugal that was 31 when he died, or she died. 31.
Wow.
A dog. So it's out there. The ability to have these dogs for a while there. And now you get to see the Scotty dog. What a way to like.
Oh,
I
love Scotty dogs. They're so cool.
And she jumped up so she could say hi to Michele, I think.
Oh, that's so cute. I did want to say this. So when we think about biofilm, the harmful bacteria, and not all bad bacteria works against it. It's only really bad when it gets biofilm. But what I was going to say is, when it starts developing the body biofilm, it will abscond minerals from the body and platelets from the body. So when your pet is not going to be any different. Biofilm is biofilm. Bacteria make it, period. The difference is that when you look at the biofilm and the gut, you have to look at the blood. There's a symbiotic relationship between the gut and the blood. And this is really important. We can have a whole other conversation on that. But I wanted to put that out there because if you are dealing with vaccine injury or whatever, there we have a solution for that, and I won't go into it right now. But suffice it to say, we've got to do things for our animals' blood as well, in conjunction with the gut. So we really need to pay attention to that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are watching and would like an opportunity to be on the show, please message Michele, because she's going to be selecting people. You can either send a photograph with the dog's name or cat or any animal. I've seen her do a reading on a leaf bug in the jungles of Costa Rica, so she can do what you want. So if you have an animal either currently alive or one that has passed, you know, send in a photo and a name. And the other option is if your story is in a topic that Michele we're going to be covering, we can bring you on and you can tell your story. So anyway, we'll have all of her contact information available, and if you want a session for your animal, please contact her. And in any reading, whether or not the dog is, as we said, ill and has some things going on or not, it's always fun to know what they're thinking.
Yeah, it really.
Jewel really wants you to know what she's thinking right now. All right, sorry, Michele, go ahead. And your dog's paws are like,
I know.
He's all legs. I have really enjoyed chatting this way so openly. It's so close to my heart. I want to thank Heather and Dorothy for coming on and sharing openly too. It's just, I feel it's such a healing journey for all of us that have had an experience like this to be able to come on and talk. And we would love to hear from people. If you're struggling with something that's undiagnosed or not fitting a regular diagnosis, it could be vaccinosis. So, you know, give us a shout, and between us, we can help you out, I'm sure. So, yeah, what a great topic, Lisa. Thank you so much for driving the show, and you do such an amazing job.
Well, it was my pleasure, and thank you all for supporting me. We had some issues with my dog yesterday, so I appreciate all your support and helping me, and she's rebounded really beautifully. So thank you. And anyway, I look forward to our next show coming up next week, and thank you all for being here.
thank you for having us. Thank you.